I'm going to show you 3 exotic, cool-sounding scales that, unless you go to a school like Berkeley, you're never going to learn in traditional music school. And I'm talking scales that sound like this. The reason these scales aren't really taught in music school unless you go to a pop, jazz, rock school like Berkeley is that by and large music school is modeled on the Western classical tradition, meaning that when you take a theory class or when you're learning scales, it's firmly based in whatever the traditions were in 17 and 1800s Western Europe. And during this time, music had lots of rules. There were intervals you weren't allowed to use, things you weren't allowed to do without being frowned upon, and that's a big reason music progressed. And so in this video, I'm going to show you 3 cool exotic sounding scales that you can start applying to your music and your improvisations right away. We'll start with the Ahava Rabba scale, also known as the Spanish Phrygian scale or the Phrygian dominant scale. And this is going to be based on a harmonic minor scale with a bit of a twist. So if you think of a harmonic minor, take a harmonic minor scale, but we start on the 5th note, so kind of like the 5th mode of harmonic minor, as it were. That gives you the Ahava Rabba scale. One way I like to figure it out quickly is taking the starting note, up a half step, up an augmented second, and then another half step, and then from here it's just the first 5 notes of the minor scale. So this would be the A Ahava Rabba scale. This is used in a couple different contexts. One is in a lot of Jewish and klezmer music, probably the most famous tune being... Or in jazz, this is the scale that you would use to improvise on the 5 chord and say a 2-5-1 in minor. Though I have to admit a lot of jazz musicians will avoid the augmented second to try to avoid that Middle Eastern sound in their jazz solos. Next is the harmonic major scale. I bet you didn't know that one existed. We usually associate harmonic scales with harmonic minor, but there is actually a harmonic major scale, and all it is your major scale, but with the 6th lowered. So that scale will sound like this. You'll encounter this scale in some classical music, especially romantic and post-romantic, as music advanced and we had more chromaticism. You'll also hear it in a lot of jazz, and especially movie scores, especially when somebody wants to sort of invoke that sort of tinge with the flat 6. And then probably the most exotic scale I'm going to show you today is the Double Harmonic Major scale. And this one actually uses 2 augmented seconds. They would flip if they heard this in the 1700s in Germany. And that scale will, again, using the major scale as our basis, we're going to use flat 2 and flat 6. So that scale will sound like this. This scale is used a lot in Indian classical music, flamenco music, and a lot of jazz fusion and prog rock, especially for improvising. So on a prog rock guitar track, you might hear a guitar player, doing something like... Let me know in the comments which scale you found most interesting, and you probably noticed that these scales are generally revolving around harmonic minor. And if that's a new concept for you, or if you need a little better understanding, definitely check out this video. We go from the very beginning, thoroughly going through natural harmonic and melodic minor scales, how they're used, complete with musical examples. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you there.